Well, Sunday morning, and did my due diligence, I guess, and listened to Jamie Johnson sing "Lead Me Home." I think it's Chris Williams. Oh, geez, I hope it is. And Dolly Parton sing "Then There Was Jesus." And I took a look at my comments on YouTube. A young man, Army vet, said, just take a look at Fry, Fry TV now. And I don't get very many comments on my YouTube stuff. But when I do, I try to respond and not harshly. Freedom of speech, that sort of thing. It's important. Um, and I pulled up a Fry TV now, and it went straight to Ottawa the day after the lady was run over by the horse, which led to two people, Christine Anderson and another wonderful guy from Croatia that I can't pronounce his name, and and they called Justin Trudeau out for how he treated the protests by peaceful Canadian people, and 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 they told Trudeau that he should not be allowed to address their, I think, NATO group of people because he had disqualified himself. They referred to him as being a dictator. They pointedly referred to the RCMP and or the Toronto Police or Ottawa Police. I mean, the, there was a major difference between what went on at Coots that I was when I was there. Wasn't there long. Wished I had gotten there sooner. Morning I left, they found a bunch of guns that had been brought in by, in listening to one person who was there. Anyways, doesn't really matter. What does matter is we have a government who will not allow protests to do with the Freedom Convoy, the People's Convoy, not communist people, not people as Trudeau referred to as being Nazis. My ancestors, probably yours too, fought for Canada. Of course, my ancestors are Irish. Shoot, that's what we were made for, it seems. There's a saying, if God hadn't allowed the Irish to come up with Irish whiskey, the Irish would rule the world. I don't know why anyone would want to rule the world. I do know why people in Canada have protested, are protesting. The most recent group that I ran into was actually here in Fort McMurray. And it was the Great Canadian Cruise. And they were two guys that started out in Ottawa, a couple of old buses, painted black, set up to live in. And at the end of the Ottawa desecration of freedom of speech, the government's terrible, terrible attitude that led them to invoke the War Measures Act. Name's been changed, doesn't matter. It's called the Emergencies Act now. There was no emergency, and it was not, as evidenced by Trudeau, his unwillingness to even meet with the Freedom Convoy leaders, some of whom are waiting for court dates, some of whom are waiting to have their bank accounts, the restrictions upon them being lifted. And Trudeau declared his belief in Black Lives Matter. And anyone with a brain would know that all lives matter. Trudeau aligned himself with the LGBT community, and that's his choice, and that's their choice. And their choice cannot be wrong because it's their choice. But Trudeau wouldn't even meet with the Freedom Convoy leadership. A blight, B-L-I-G-H-T, blight. I hope that's the correct spelling. I believe it is. Has been perpetrated against Canadian citizens by the Canadian government, Liberal and NDP government in Canada. The Conservatives met with the Freedom Convoy leadership. Pouvoir, I think. It's not pepper, but I think that's, I would have to check the spelling. But one of the Conservatives who have thrown their hat in the ring to lead the Conservative Party is now being condemned by many because he did go and meet with the Freedom Convoy. And down in Coots, we had good RCMP. Not all RCMP are good, and not all RCMP are bad. Because individually, people make choices. And it is unfortunate that Canadian people weren't forced, but were forced, become involved in the Freedom Convoy because they chose not to believe the one-sided science that demanded that everyone should be vaccinated. It was their choice. But because of their choice, they could not work. My Irish family, I am the only one that I know who has been vaccinated, and I am fully vaccinated because it was the only way that I could get a job up in Fort Mac. And it was the only way I could possibly have gone to have coffee with the most beautiful woman I ever met, period. And it didn't work out. But it could have. And, uh, and I suppose it could still. Well, I would hope so. But down in Coots, we had police officers. I got there on a Saturday, and might have been Sunday morning. Not sure. Saturday, I believe, but it doesn't matter. Um, I went to church. Hasn't happened but once in the last 15 years. But it was kind of difficult not to. I've nothing against church. People go to church, I just showed encouragement to them. I say, come Monday morning, don't you go and change now from what you said on Sunday. Okay, people are watching. I used to say, when I was younger and a whole lot smarter, if Jesus Christ were to come back and walk in the back door of the average evangelical church, or even not evangelical church, he'd probably be asked to leave. I still stand by that. Because Jesus himself was a protester of the highest order. He protested against religion. The self-deification, he protested against the self-deification of people who, through narcissism or whatever, have become their own gods. But down at Coots, when there was a time of praying, some officers who were close enough to the stage where one of the services was going on, they took their hats off when people were praying. Out of respect for God. It's kind of interesting. Things have gone downhill a lot since I was a kid. A man would not pray with his hat on. I have. A man would not wear his hat into the sanctuary. Not the sanctuary that was spoken of in Scripture, but the sanctuary of churches, church buildings, which is but a meeting place for the people who purport that they believe in God, purport that they believe in love. Scripture says, love one another as I have loved you. Scripture says a lot of things that are fundamentally no longer politically acceptable. I'll choose Scripture, hands down, today, tomorrow morning, every day, because God said, I change not. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The blight that has been perpetrated against our Canadian reputation by the Liberal Party is shameful. But what else is shameful is this. For a man, a person, to know to do good and doeth it not, it is sin. Does that make any difference to anyone? Not much. Should it? I think so. I've said for a while, I do hope that we as Canadians have long memories. I believe that Trudeau and the NDP are convinced that that's a possibility, because they've gotten together and formed another formatted government that will keep Trudeau from having an election in Canada until 2025. Hold him in contempt and disrespect if you spend any time studying what he's done. But he's not stupid. Shameful, really, but not stupid. So the great Canadian cruise goes on. The one black bus headed for the East Coast. The other black bus headed for Vancouver. They stopped here in Fort Mac on the way back, and yesterday they were to be in Red Deer. And they're just working their way town by town back to Ottawa for Canada Day. For Canada Day. Oh, they should call it Freedom Day, because Canadians are not free. The people of Canada are indentured. They're indebted to the very people that they elected. And your freedom, you think you're free? You're not. My ancestors fought for freedom of speech, action. We have no right to impose ourselves on others, but we do have the right to protest. This video may or may not get on the air. It depends on how politically correct it is looked upon by those who will determine what you and I can think, how we can process thought, what we are allowed to say and not allowed to say. I have ended most all my videos with pray. For the first 350 or almost 400, I would end each video with, you're going to live till you die. Only you can determine where you spend eternity. And that's the truth. That's a fact. You're the only one. So, I pray for you. I pray that you will take time, objectively, an open mind. Consider God. Consider eternity. Consider where you're going to spend eternity. It's your choice. It is your choice. It's not the government's choice. It's a good thing. Because Trudeau, in his actions, spoke most eloquently by his actions in suggesting where the Freedom Convoy could spend eternity. It's not his choice, children. It's not his choice. God bless thee.